Christopher Plummer is the Kaiser, Jai Courtney is the Nazi, and Lily James is the Jew in the steamy romantic drama The Exception. And Marky Mark and his robotic funky bunch are back once more for Transformers: The Last Night. That's all on this edition of Movies with Mark. Hi, I'm Mark McPherson, movie critic for Moviespoon.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at two movies that are currently playing in theaters, as well as make a few recommendations for movies that you can watch on streaming services at home right now. Our first film is Transformers: The Last Night, the fifth and supposed, but no one's going to believe it, final Transformers movie by director Michael Bay. And wow, this movie is a lot more of the same, and the same wasn't that great to begin with. And man, does this movie wear on you. I mean, with its excess amounts of action and cluttered CGI and a plot that's all over the place and characters that only speak in one-liners and that are smug and mean to each other and just more violence and chaos. I mean, it is just such a chaotic film filled with so much carnage that ultimately means nothing. Now, I didn't go into this Transformers film wanting it to be bad. No, like a lot of fans who, go into every Transformers movie or see every new Transformers trailer, they go in thinking, maybe this will be the one. This will be the good one. It'll find something great to make. It'll make a great action film finally. And no, I'm sad to report that The Last Night is just more of the same. In fact, it seems to rip most of the same plot from the last film. So the story is pretty much the same as it's always been for any Transformers movie. They're searching for some ancient relic of Cybertron that's been on Earth this whole time. This time it's a little bit more ridiculous, because what they're searching for is the magical staff of Merlin the Wizard, and it turns out that Merlin didn't actually know magic. He just happened to stumble across some Autobots, and they gave him a relic, and that allowed him to do magic and wield a dragon through the skies. Well, they gotta find this new staff, because apparently it's the only thing that can stop Unicron. And what's Unicron? Well, for those who are familiar with Transformers, they know who Unicron is. He's this big, giant, Transformer the size of a planet, and he eats other planets. But here it turns out that there's a Transformer inside the planet, and I guess they need the staff to stop this Unicron guy. But wait, there's more cluttered plot in here. It turns out that the Transformers are still being hunted by the world governments. There's now a task force for them. They're called like the TRF, and they hunt Transformers. Except it seems like they kind of hunt them, but then they also imprison certain Transformers. I'll get to that in a minute, but what's ridiculous about this, it seems like the world has become this sort of military state, because now the military has these these drone robot walkers that can shoot at things, and they can easily dispatch Transformers just like they did in the last film. And it made me think that, is there a military state going on here? Because one of the characters we meet is a little girl called Isabella, who's been living among the wreckage, and she befriends Transformers, and she looks like she's straight out of Mad Max. So I kind of thought, like, oh, is it this military society? Is it a police state that's currently going on in the world where everyone fears the Transformers, and they're on strict lock and key with like these Judge Dredd type of law enforcement that's trying to make sure everyone's safe? It might be, but we don't know, because we never get to explore the world, because we got to move on to other plots. Mark Wahlberg returns as Cade, who's friends with the Autobots, and he's decided to hide the Autobots in a junkyard. But you got to ask yourself, are they really worth saving? I mean, most of the time when they're in this junkyard, they don't seem to be likable characters or contributing anything. They're just, beating each other up and demolishing stuff and eating cars and setting the place on fire and blowing stuff up. And it's like, how have they avoided detection this whole time? And why should we care about them? Especially because they're, you remember there was a robotic dinosaur from the last one. Well, now it turns out that dinosaur had some baby dinosaurs, and they can now breathe fire. And I love how the film tries to make them seem like these little tiny robotic dinosaurs that have all these metallic parts, or like these little cuddly pets that you can just, pet and love and everything. It's like they breathe fire and they're made out of metal. I wouldn't really want to cuddle with these things, even though Isabella seems to just snuggle up with them at night and sleep just soundly. Okay, so back to the TRF. Turns out that the TRF has been imprisoning some of the Decepticons, but why? Oh, because later the TRF, they want to hire Megatron to help track down the Autobots so that they can find this relic and, you know, bring the Autobots to justice. Yeah, because trusting your enemy, yeah, that worked out so well in the last film. Not only do they trust Megatron, but they agree to his terms to release certain Decepticons out of lockup. And I know you're thinking, wait, lockup? So that they're just taking the Transformers and just putting them in these little, like, prison cells? It's like, what, for what? To serve sentence? For are they going to bring them to trial or something? I thought they'd just melt them down for parts since they shoot everyone else. But no. They have to have the Decepticons in prison so that they can showcase them, you know, like Dirty Dozen or Suicide Squad style, so that they can be bust out of jail and they're now like the bad guys who are working with the good guys, even though they're not really that bad, but who cares? Now, where is Optimus Prime in all this? Well, if you remember from the last film, Optimus Prime went out into space to take the fight to, you know, whoever's going to threaten Earth. And he ends up going back to Cybertron and finds out that Cybertron is decimated. There's nothing there. There's no life. Everything is in shreds and pieces. And it turns out there's only one living life form there, and it's this woman called Quintessa, who's sort of this robot with sort of tentacles all over her, going all over the place. And she wants to rebuild Cybertron, and Prime kind of agrees, like, yo, I want to rebuild it too. And so he says, well, we got to go to Earth and we got to get this staff, which basically means that Optimus Prime has to turn evil and basically fight against the humans now. So Optimus Prime turns into the bad guy who's now like Nemesis Prime, who's fighting for Cybertron, which basically means he's against Earth now, which means he's gonna attack human soldiers and he's gonna destroy cities, anything he can, just so that he can get the staff so that he can restore Cybertron. Yeah, he's fighting against Earth now, which isn't that surprising. I mean, he spends all these Transformers movies talking about how, you know, we must defend Earth, how we must defend the humans, but he does such a poor job of it. I mean, you know, why start now? Now, as crazy as all that sounds, it gets even loonier when Mark Wahlberg's character discovers this ancient medallion of like the Knights of the Round Table. They apparently have like Autobots working for them as well, and he discovers through this talisman he's targeted by Anthony Hopkins' character, who has headed up this organization that's basically kept the Transformers a secret throughout all of history. So he brings Mark Wahlberg to his house and shows him all these pictures about how Transformers were responsible for everything in history, including a very long sequence where we showcase Bumblebee fighting the Nazis in World War II. Yeah. They stress so much how Transformers have been responsible for so much of human history that it's ridiculous. At one point they showcase this sort of like transforming watch that apparently killed Hitler. Yeah, the Transformers killed Hitler. We don't actually get to see the watch kill Hitler, you know, no, we don't want to do that. But we'll clearly, you know, show Bumblebee shooting up like a Nazi regime or something like that. Just so that, you know, Michael Bay can showcase how American he is, which, yeah, if you haven't figured it out by now, you know, obviously Michael Bay puts a lot of the military in here. We get to see a lot of different military craft. We get to see jets, we get to see submarines, we get to see tanks, we get to see all kinds of crazy military crap, which, you know, like everything in the film, you know, it looks neat visually, but there's nothing really pulling it along. Now, unlike the last Transformers film, Age of Extinction, you know, there was nothing hugely offensive here. I mean, there's some stuff that, you know, that goes very close to being on the offensive. Like, there's a very misogynistic scene where the love interest of Laura Haddock is playing this woman called Vivian, who's apparently a descendant of Merlin, and only she can wield the staff. Oh, so she'll have such power. But of course, she has to fight an uphill battle, so she lives with these a whole bunch of women in England who stress how much, like, oh, you need a man in your life. We need to get you a man. Like, your work is so boring. You should get a man in your life. And they also stress kind of like the whole, you know, female empowerment thing with Isabella as well. Isabella is kind of more kicked to the side, though, because there isn't much for her to do. She's just kind of there as, like, you know, the cute and chipper kid who's, you know, who knows a lot about Transformers. Like, yeah, maybe she'll play a really cool part. Maybe this will be more of a kid's film where kids can get involved. Nope. There is no reason to care about the characters in this movie. None. They have nothing interesting to say. Nothing. It's either, you know, if they're not talking about exposition, they're delivering one-liners. And not even, like, fitting one-liners. They're just kind of, like, you know, wedged in there and don't really match up with their character. I mean, Anthony Hopkins, he seems like he'd be, like, a very refined actor for this role. He seems like he knows a lot about the Transformers, but in that same instance, you know, there are certain scenes where he's required to, you know, to scream at people and yell, "Shut up, shut up, shut up," and then call people bitch and dude and like ride around in a Ferrari laughing as he smashes into people, and just feels so off and odd. Anthony Hopkins has this robotic butler who seems like, okay, a robotic butler, it seems like he would be the most refined. Like, he would be, you know, a proper gentleman and, you know, would state stuff, you know, very intelligently. And yet he's reduced to saying these very terrible one-liners of like, "Oh, bitch, get out the way," or "No hanky-panky going on in here." The Transformers themselves, I mean, I've said this with every Transformer film, but I have to say it again, just because it nauseated me once again, is that the character designs for the Transformers suck. They suck so badly. They look like just a mess of parts, and it just makes the CGI look so ugly for having so many of these moving parts moving in these action scenes where there's so much going on, and we have all these intricate parts that are moving and dodging and jumping in the air and crashing and exploding and falling all over the place, and it's like, I have no clue what's going on in these scenes. Mostly because, I mean, yeah, for one, they're shot terribly, and they're edited terribly, so we don't know, you know, where we are on the shocks. Cameras, you know, bucking around every place. We don't know what's happening, who's shooting at what's happening. There are several scenes where, you know, where the humans have to invade Cybertron, and they're being shot at. Where they're being like, well, shot at by who? Who's shooting? What's going on? No, I wasn't that flustered during the movie. Most of the movie, I was just depressed and bored that, you know, it's more of the same. And I mean, yeah, there are these huge action sequences where lots of stuff explodes, and, you know, the soundtrack is cranked all the way up so the theater will be shaking, so that your teeth will be rattling and your heart will be pounding. But, you know, even with all that, I felt nothing. You know, it's like you're dead and you're trying to be revived by, you know, like electric shocks trying to bring you back to life, but you can't. There's nothing to bring me back to life here. Like I said, there's nothing offensive about this movie, nothing that I went at the screen going like, ah, but there was so many like inconsistencies with its plot and how, and just like the excess of it all just left me so bored. I just sat there going, really? Just that's it? And supposedly like this film has been marketed as, you know, Michael Bay's final Transformer film, or the final Transformers film, which is a load of crap. I mean, in fact, they set it up right at the very end that this is not going to be the final Transformers film. You know what? Screw it. I'll just spoil the ending of the movie here because they don't wrap up the plot. This whole like Unicron business where there are these horns coming out of the earth, they don't solve it. No, they just leave it there. They don't really answer it or bring that plot to its conclusion. It's just, you know, going to sit on the shelf for the next film. Which, I mean, that's such a tacky way of like marketing this film. It's like, oh, the final Transformers movie. The script keeps stressing like how, like, you know, it's the end times. This is the end. You know, it's going to be our final battle. This will be our last fight. And it's clearly not going to be their last fight. And there's nothing really all that present here that seems like it would be their final fight. There's not even, we don't even get the joy of seeing Optimus Prime kill somebody really brutally during the end. Like, he kicks Megatron out of a ship, and that's like the end of like Megatron's arc. Especially the only back and forth that Megatron and Optimus Prime have in this is that they have one clash, and then Megatron says like, "We were once brothers," and Optimus says, "Yeah, once," and that's great. Great dialogue there. Great writing. And the film is 2.5 hours. And I mean, for mindless entertainment of just watching robots battle each other and having stuff explode, it feels way too much. I felt exhausted coming out of this film, like I'd been pummeled when I came out of this. And I mean, yeah, we can say that for pretty much all the Transformers films. They're all way too long and they always overdo it. But yeah, this is more of the same. Oh, so Transformers, The Last Night, it's just such an aggravating experience. I know I go through this every single time, like with every Transformers movie, but it's just, it wears so thin on me, and I can't let it slide by. I can't, and I wanted to find something to like in this film. I wanted something to take away. I mean, the best I can say is that it's not that offensive. but at the same time, there's nothing to care about here. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the plot. I didn't care about the Transformers or their plight, or if Cybertron would be rebuilt, or if the Earth would blow up, especially when they say, like, oh, millions are going to die, you know, the damage is going to be in the billions, people are going to die. It's like, I don't care anymore. I do not care. This movie has done everything in its power to showcase so much special effects, so many one-liners, so much action, so much explosions, to the point where it means nothing. It's like an endurance test. It's trying to see, you know, how much you can put up with this crap and try to excuse it and try to defend it as a Transformers film. Even the screening that I saw this at, there were a bunch of Transformers fans there. Huge, huge, huge Transformers fans. And even they, you know, they chuckled now and then at like a one-liner here or there, but most of the time they're just kind of looking at the screen just kind of like in boredom. Most of them had their head in their hands. Most of them were kind of looking off to the side. They're trying to figure, like, is it going to get exciting? I mean, at what point is this going to be too much? Well, for me, you know, I've had enough of this long ago. You know, this filmmaking is just excessive and lazy and stupid, and it has nothing to say, and it's not entertaining, and it's not thrilling, and even the most base levels of going into this film, just trying to find anything to like, I couldn't find anything. I tried, but you know, it's more of the same, and it just wore me down to nothing. So, Transformers: The Last Knight, 1 star. Our next film is The Exception, a World War II drama which details both the Kaiser's role during Hitler's reign and the love affair between a Nazi and a Jew during such a time period. And the war drama part of this, which could be interesting, I'm trying to figure out, you know, what was happening with the last days of the Kaiser and what he was doing during Hitler's reign. You know, that stuff could be interesting, but it's not really that interesting here. But thankfully, the romance here between the Nazi and the Jew is actually pretty romantic, has a lot of chemistry, and is actually quite erotic. And it actually kind of saves this film, which is kind of uneven with trying to be both a military drama and a romance. Jai Courtney plays the Nazi captain Brandt, who has been sent to the Kaiser to investigate him for his loyalty, to make sure that the Kaiser is actually willing to work with the Nazis. Now, while he's sent there to investigate, he's attracted to a maid there, played by Lily James. And she seems very willing and very interested in Captain Brandt. And they have these great moments where they're alone, and they take off each other's clothes, and you know, they caress, and they love each other, and they have this secret affair behind the Kaiser's back. And it's very romantic. There's a great scene where, you know, at first Captain Brandt kind of orders her, like, you know, take off your clothes, and she takes off her clothes, and they embrace and kiss, and you feel that there's something here. Then later on, there's a scene where Lily James' character of Mike, I hope I'm saying her name right there, I'm probably mispronouncing it, but Lily James's character, she tells Captain Brandt that she wants him to undress, so he undresses before her, and then they have this very erotic sex scene, which, I mean, you know, sex scenes are a little bit tough to find, like, the romance and the chemistry and the bonding between the characters. It can be really tough to film a great sex scene, but there are actually a few sex scenes here that are very, very romantic, very well shot, and feel very erotic. It was pretty neat to see. Now, eventually they get to this point where, you know, at first, you know, here's the thing, Captain Brandt doesn't know that this woman is a Jew. And so, you know, they keep their affair going, but then eventually one night while they're lying in bed, you know, after they've had sex and they're having cigarettes, she just, you know, flat out says it, well, you know, I'm a Jew. And Brandt is like, well, no, you're not. I don't believe that. And of course, you know, she's like, no, I am a Jew. Not only is she a Jew, but she's also a secretive Jew who's been, you know, trying to keep other Jews hidden from the Nazis during this time frame. And she's actually being pursued by the Nazis as well. So in addition to trying to cover up, you know, this love affair that Brandt has with this woman, he also has to protect her from the Nazis that might be coming to find her soon, because they're intercepting her transmissions, and he's got to hide her and find a way to make this romance work, because he deeply loves this woman. Now, this is a drama that, you know, you've probably seen this before. You know, where it's, you know, like a forbidden love during time of war, you know, that type of deal. But it's actually performed really well here. Like, Jai Courtney, he's surprisingly pretty good in this role. Lily James, she does a great job at portraying this woman who seems to know what she wants, but is a little bit fearful of the territory she might be going into. And Christopher Plummer, he's perfect in this role. I mean, he's playing this up as much as he can as the Kaiser, this guy who would rather, you know, go out and feed ducks than talk about military and war strategy. I mean, he'll still do it, but, you know, he you know, in his old age, he's finding, you know, there's other things to find pleasure in. And you like him so much that it gets to a point where he discovers about the love affair, and he's sort of like saying, like, look, just keep it more discreet. I'm not really angry, you know, I know that, you know, she's a Jew and that you're a Nazi, but, you know, let's keep it under our hats. You know, he likes these two characters, and he wants to see them end up together. And I did too. For a film with a Nazi as the hero who runs off with a Jew, I was surprised by how much I dug The Exception. I didn't quite fall in love with it as much as these two characters did, but I think there's enough going on here and enough of a steamy romance that's going on that that holds the picture together and prevents it from falling apart as a war drama that doesn't quite feel as large in scale or as big in focus. I think it has a better focus when it's trying to be a romance than it does being a drama. And for that, I kind of love it, and I'm going to give it a mildly positive review of 3 stars for The Exception. And now here are a few recommendations for movies that you can watch on streaming services right now. Currently playing on Netflix is the premiere of the new film Okja, the new movie by Bong Joon-ho, who you might remember directed 2014 sleeper hit Snowpiercer, in this great kind of genre-jumping film about a woman trying to save this cute new animal from being processed by an evil company that wants to harvest the creature for meat. It has a great cast, including Tilda Swinton and Paul Dano, and Steven Yeun from TV's The Walking Dead. Currently playing on Amazon Prime is Star Trek Beyond, the third and the best of the new Star Trek films, which finally finds the crew leaving Earth for that 5-year mission. The Enterprise is called to investigate a planet, but oh no, they're led into a trap and the Enterprise is blown up, so now the crew have to reorganize once they land on the planet and try to find a means of getting back to the Federation and warn them about a new threat of a villain who has a bone to pick with the Federation. And currently playing on Filmstruck is Alex Proyer's The Crow, a surprisingly dark comic book movie from the era of the Batman movies in the 1990s, which features some amazing action sequences, some great set design, a fantastic soundtrack, and Brandon Lee in one of his finest roles, and sadly, his final role for an accident that happened on set which led to his unfortunate death. And now a recap of the movies I reviewed on today's program. 1 star for Transformers: The Last Knight, another excessive entry in the Transformers saga by director Michael Bay, who still doesn't give me a reason to care about anything that happens in these movies. And 3 stars for The Exception, a mild recommendation of a romance during wartime, which does a better job at focusing on the eroticism of the romance than it does the war drama of trying to figure out what's going on with the Kaiser. Remember, you can read more of my reviews at Moviespoon.com or Movieswithmark.com, and if you dug the show, well, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and consider supporting it on Patreon, and as always, thank you for watching.